Hey everybody, I am just settling in. It is now 8:01, so I'm pretty much on time. I'm trying to I don't use this thing very often, so please excuse me as I kind of get myself organized. I think we're good. If you can hear me, that's great. If you can't hear me, please let me know, but I think everything's working just fine, and I'm here to chat. Again, I don't do this very often, so please bear with me. It's also the end of a very long week. So yeah, I've got notes in front of me here to kind of keep myself organized for the topic this evening. I've got some really great content for y'all. But yeah, again, please just be patient with me. I'm going to go ahead and just chat a little bit. Hey, I saw Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. I'm going to chat a little bit and give more people time to show up, and then we'll dive right in. So some of you know, most of you probably already know, like I'm a mom of, 4 small children, 2 of whom are 8-month-old twins. So it's a lot. My other little guy just turned 2 last weekend. So it's been 8 months of 3 small children under the age of 2. And now we have a 2-year-old, and this is easier. So it's a lot all the time. But anyway, so I'm here to talk to you about work-life balance, because that's like a whole new adventure for me every single day. But it's fun. It's exciting. I love this job. I've got all kinds of great just tips and tricks that I've picked up over time. I've got, if nothing else, I have a lot of experience, both positive and negative, from which to draw. And you know what? Negative experience is just as valuable in the long run. So a quick little thing before I get started. I'm seeing more and more people arriving, so I'm going to dive in just a second. I want to be sure Anna is here because I'm answering her question. So Anna, as soon as you get here, wave to me or something, because, this is for you, girl. But one quick little thing. So when I put out the invitation to everyone to, come and hear me talk tonight, part of what I said, this is the truth. Oh, hi, Anna. She's here. Excellent. Part of what I said, and this is the truth, was that, I'm here to share with you some of my journey from, for the last, within 2 years becoming a 6-figure novelist. So this is technically true. I did go from basically 0 to 6 figures in 2 years, but that is 2 years of publishing under this name. That was not 2 years of work. You need to know that I did start professionally publishing. I signed my first contract at age 22, forever and an age ago. I've been professionally, my first book came out at age 24. I have been working as an author for a very, very long time. And I was definitely not a 6-figure novelist. It was 2 years after launching this pen name, which I did launch from scratch. I didn't really carry over any of the audience or anything from my old work. But it was 2 years from launching this pen name as an indie novelist that I started making a 6-figure income. But it is important for all of you to know that I had many years worth of experience, most of it negative, but tons of experience that I was drawing from that influenced a lot of my decision making and helped me on this road into indie publishing. So I just wanted to clear that up, because I don't want to give you guys a false impression of oh yeah, in 2 years you can go from absolute 0, maybe just 1 manuscript to your name, to 6 figures. And technically maybe you can, you might be that genius. That was not me. I have not met very many people who did that. I know a few who have literally gone from 0 to 6 figures very good, faster than I did. They do exist. That's not my story. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to share what I have done and the experiences that I have. So anyway, I see a bunch of people have now arrived, so I'm going to go ahead and get into this evening's topic. Oh, sorry, real quick. I had a bunch of people send me some really great questions in advance of this topic, which I really appreciate, but they don't quite go with what I'm talking about tonight. One young author sent me a fantastic question where she wanted to know like my top tips for visibility. Like if you're already a new author, you have a couple of books to your name, but you're just really struggling to become, to get seen. And it's a great topic. It's a great question, but I'm going to table that for a different live video, maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks from now. Let me see how it goes. Probably 2 weeks from now. It's a great topic. I could talk on that for quite a while, give you my top 3 or top 5 tips for visibility, but that's just not really tonight. Also tonight it's going to be more, I hope it will be inspiring. I have a few practical tips, but like a lot of the stuff is just like I'm sharing with you what I did and what I chose. So take it for what it's worth. Like this is definitely not a template for you. This is what I did, this is what I chose, this is why I chose it. It may or may not be a good fit for you, or just your circumstances might need something different. I don't know. So this is really like, it's kind of a lecture, but it's not really a like, here are your like top 5 tips for rapid release. Anyway, hi Michelle. I'm excited to share with you too. Also, go ahead, ask questions pertaining to the topic in the comments as you go. I have got like an outline and notes from it myself right here to kind of keep me focused, because otherwise I'll be like, ooh, all the shiny different questions and I want to talk to you about all of them. I'm going to get through my notes and like stay as focused as possible because this is a fairly complicated topic. And once I get to the end of it, if it's not like, an hour later or whatever, if it's not super, super late, I will come back and look through your questions and see if there's anything there that pertains to this topic, and I'll answer those as well. But for the moment, I'm going to try to stay focused on my outline here. So anyway, context for this evening's talk. I have been in communication back and forth with a very talented young novelist. She's an up-and-coming. She's not launched her debut novel yet, but she has been publishing on Kindle Vella, so you should check her out. She writes under the name Anastasis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Anastasis Blythe. She's very, very talented. She's got a couple of books up for pre-order on Amazon already, and she's gearing up for what she's hoping will be a nice big rapid release launch, modeling it in part after some of the things that I have shared before about my own my own launch into indie publishing. She's doing it all, like I'm watching what she's doing, and I'm telling you what, she's doing it right. I'm so impressed by what this young gal is doing. She's got her covers on point, she's got her blurbs on point, she has got a free novel that you get when you subscribe to her newsletter. So at the end of this, I'm going to link to her website to all of you, because she's got a free novel. I've read it. It's awesome. Anna, I am so sorry I've not posted about it anywhere yet because, twins and life and deadlines, but I have read it. It's awesome. It's called Maiden of Candlelight and Lotuses. It's just fantastic. So you heard it here first, folks. She's going to be the next big thing in clean romantic fantasy. Super excited about this author. Definitely check her out. But anyway, she wrote to me earlier this week with the question, so how did you survive a rapid release for your very first publication? How did you survive a rapid release schedule? Not just the workload, but just the sheer intensity of being stuck in the same series and the same project for so long. So this is kind of her dilemma, and some of you may relate to this. I believe there's a couple of you on here who are kind of in the process of doing the same sort of thing. Oh, and if you're not aware, rapid release basically refers to a publishing strategy where you basically you hoard manuscripts. You write a number of manuscripts, all generally within the same series, and then you release them very quickly back to back. And that can mean a couple of different things. It can be very quickly, you could release one a week for a handful of weeks. You could do one a month. You could do one every other month, one every 3 months, whatever it is. Basically, you've stockpiled your manuscripts so that you can consistently put out new material very quickly and on a predictable schedule. Now, I do highly recommend this method to anybody who's thinking about launching into an indie publishing career. And this is why. It is very, very difficult to make your name as a new author. Now, I published traditionally when I started, and traditional publishing is, I mean, generally speaking, it's one book a year. I was producing and working on like one book every 9 months. So, I mean, really it was like every year I had a new book out. And it's really hard to make a name that way. It's very, very challenging to make a splash and to go from basically a zero no-name debut to an established author. It's very, very challenging to do that. Whereas if you stockpile your manuscripts and you publish rapidly over, a couple of months, you go from zero to like, hey, she's got like 7 books out under her name. In about a year, she's established. It's a whole new ballgame then. So that is what this gal, Anastasis, is working on, and that is what I did. So when I launched my career as an indie novelist, having done traditional and just like broken my back over the 1 book a year slog, when I decided that it was time to I'm not making the progress I want to make in the career. I'm not on the trajectory I want to be on. I really want to make it as a professional novelist. I want to rethink this game, and I started seriously researching indie publishing, and I very quickly landed on the rapid release strategy. And I went, hey, you know what? This works for me. I love to write. I write very fast. I don't have to always write 150,000 word tomes. What if I split those in half and wrote shorter books, produced them very quickly? This could really work for me. So that was what I set out to accomplish. What I ultimately ended up doing was publishing my Venatrix Chronicles, which was a more of an epic fantasy with romantic threads. Call me. Sorry. Pardon me 1 second. So it was more of an epic fantasy with romantic threads in it. I now these days write more fantasy romance, but this one was more just an epic fantasy. But anyway, it ended up being a 7-book series. And yes, I wrote the entire thing before I published book 1. And I went from total no name to established name in the field within a year, and I had my next trilogy ready to go. So there was no break in my publishing schedule for about 2 years. I really just kept it going every other month, or not every other month. It was generally every 2 months or so. So that was my strategy going into it. So here's the thing. It's easier said than done. Holy cow, it's easier said than done. When it comes time to stockpiling manuscripts, especially if you're trying to do what I did, where it was a 7-book series that told a continuous story arc. Every story had its own individual plot that resolved, but the overall 7-book series was working to a major series climax and resolution. So it was one great big story broken into 7 parts. And holy cow, it was a lot to write. It was so much to write. On top of that, I was a new mom, just had my first baby. Super fun time to be learning a whole new career. I was researching indie publishing. I was reading tons of both indie and traditional, but mostly indie authors who were writing successfully the kinds of books that I wanted to do. I was starting the preliminary work of building my name. I was there was so much going on. And on top of that, to a degree, I was learning to write differently than I had written before. I had written as an artist before, if that makes sense. I wrote from my passion. I wrote for the sake of creativity. And I still wanted and still wanted to do that. But all of a sudden, when I'm in this position of needing to create 7 books and quickly written to appeal to very specific audience tastes, that was a whole different ballgame. I wasn't writing just to please myself anymore. And that was extremely challenging to do. So what is now the 7-book Venatrix series, and which looks of course, that story always must have been that way. It was meant to be that way. It reads so naturally. No. It started out, it was supposed to be a 10-book series, and then I went, holy cow, I can't do 10 books. I'm going to cut this back and do like 5 books. And no, I don't want to do 5 books. I'm going to just do a trilogy. But no, this trilogy, really, I should cut each of these books in half and turn it into 6 books. And then the very last book, it's like, this is too big. I need to split this. And whatever. Long story short, it grew and contracted and grew and contracted over the course of many years. And it was exhausting. So I definitely feel Anna's question, original question being, how did you survive being stuck on the same project for so frickin' long? It's a good question. I'd never done this before. I had only ever written 1 book at a time. I wrote a series, but it was very much a 1 book at a time series. They were nice, big, long books. I'd put 9+ months into each one of them, and each one was just this work of individual art in and of itself. And so, there's a comfort in that. Like, you do the one thing, and it's hard. It's always hard. A single book is very, very hard to do. Not knocking those of you who write single books. It's very hard. But it's a very, very different scenario when you're writing 1 book versus you're trying to write 7, and you're trying to wait before you publish any of them, and you're trying to make certain that they tell a consecutive story and all of that. It's exhausting. And then in my case, because I was really learning a whole new writing approach, like I'm changing so much as I go. So all of that to say, I got to one point, so this was about 1.5 years before I pushed publish on Venetrix book 1. 1.5 years before I hit publish. I had already been working on this thing for, I don't even want to say how long. It had been a very long time. It had gone through so many iterations, and I finally had hit on the iteration that I knew I wanted, and what ended up being the Venetrix Chronicles as it currently exists. But I was 5 books in. I just finished book 5, and honestly, it was a really bad draft of book 5. I was going to I already knew I was going to have to trash half of it and do it again because it did not work, and I didn't know why. And I was exhausted, and I knew I had at least 2 more books to go, and I knew once those 2 books were done, I was going to have to go back and do rewrites on all of the previous books still, just to make certain it was all still harmonious. I was going to have to like read through all of them multiple times. I mean, all of the work that goes into publishing a single book, I was going to have to do for 7, and I hadn't even finished writing them yet. So this is like January 2018. I didn't hit publish until August 2019. So January 2018, I come to my husband and I said to him, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm exhausted. I'm not having fun anymore. I don't want to get up and work in the morning. I'm still figuring out new motherhood. I am like, everything that I loved about being a novelist is just gone. I don't want to do this anymore. I am sick of it. And at that time, on top of that, it wasn't even that I didn't want to be a novelist anymore. I just didn't want to be a Venetrix Chronicles novelist anymore. At that time, I had just come up with the beginnings of what was going to become my Prince of the Doom City idea, which is the series I'm currently drafting, for those of you who don't know. A fae romance, super fun and exciting, bright, shiny new project. I had just come up with that idea, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? That one's going to be a better fit for the market anyway. Everyone's going to love that so much more than Ylith and Shades and Venators and all this darkness and this creepy wood, and like, everyone's going to like Prince of the Doom City better. It's a better project. So I'm going to table this thing. I'm tired of writing it. I don't want to keep doing it anymore. I'm going to go over to my new bright, shiny Prince of the Doom City series, and I'm going to start that instead. This is what I'm going to do. What do you think? So this is what happened. My husband, whose nickname is Handsome, I call him Handsome so much, his daughter is pretty sure that's his first name. I asked her the other day, do you know what your daddy's name is? And she says, it's Handsome David, right? I'm like, no, it's not Handsome, but you know what? You might as well just call him Handsome. So my husband, Handsome, he looks at me and he says, I've known you for so many years. I have watched you walk this job, walk this career, go, walk this difficult path as an author. And he really has. Like, I met him the same year my first book came out, the same year it published. And there was drama back then. I won't even get into that. But like, he literally met me in the midst of some of the worst publishing drama I've ever endured. It was fun times. He learned a lot very quickly before he'd even put a ring on it. So he's like, I have watched you, struggle in this career. I have watched you in moments of triumph. I have watched you in moments of despair. I have watched you want to throw in the towel and never look at it again. And I have watched you come back from that. And I have, I have respected every one of the decisions you have made. And I have admired your tenacity and your creativity and your sheer determination. I have watched and I have admired all of that. And I always want to support you in whatever you decide to do. But if you throw in the towel now, if you quit on this series now, after everything I've watched you do these last couple years, and as close as you are to finishing, I will lose some respect for you. So here's the thing. You don't want to lose Handsome's respect. For context, it's like if Hugh Jackman comes up to you and says, hey, look, I really need you to like rise to this challenge. I mean, what you're going to say? You're going to be like, of course, Hugh. Whatever you need, Hugh. So that's kind of how it is being married to Handsome. He is like the sweetest, most honorable. I'm gonna start crying because like he really is like the most wonderful man on the planet, and then he's gorgeous to boot. So like if Handsome looks at you and says, I need you to do this, I need you to rise to this challenge, you listen. You kind of have to listen. And it really did make me stop and think. So here's the thing. During all of this time that I was working on this career and that I was trying so hard to like make a go of it, my husband, my Handsome, was supporting me. He was going to a soul-crushing 9-to-5 corporate America job. And he was supporting me, now supporting our little girl. And he was getting up every day and he was working these brutally long hours because, I mean, they work them hard. You think it's a desk job, it's easy. It's not. I mean, he's managing a team of like, well over 100 people, and they have him constantly on call. He's up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And then he gets off work and he comes home and he is wonderful. He is patient, he is darling, he is helpful, he is on it, he is everything. And he is doing this every day because he believes in me and my passion and what I am trying to achieve. And in that moment, I had to step back and really think about it and go, okay, here's the thing. This job is not fun anymore. It's not fun. All of a sudden, it's gone from being my work of art, it's gone from being this passion that I love to being just plain hard. I don't want to finish these last 2 manuscripts. I don't want to read through the previous 5 manuscripts again. I don't want to like make certain that everything I said in book 1 like leads to somewhere in book 7. I don't want to do any of this anymore. And then I realized he does not want to get up every day and go into his office and log in and start doing that soul-crushing work of his again. He does not want to do that either. You know why he does it? He does it because he loves me and he believes in me. He loves our little girl. He believes in the family that we're building together. That's why he does it. So that was a huge, I hadn't even pushed publish yet. Like I said, this was a 1.5 years before I even hit publish. But that was the moment where I really had to make that mental transition from, oh, this can't just be my passion. If I want to do this and do it to the level that I am working and aspiring toward, it's not my passion. It's my job. And that means I gotta do the not fun stuff. It also means a number of other interesting things. It means that, you know, that beautiful, nice, sweet, shiny Prince of the Doom City series that I was like, I really just want to go write that. I don't want to do Venetrix anymore. I don't want to do any more of these shades. Like, I want to go do hot, handsome, fae princes. Like, let me go do that now for a little while. That series, it's also the job. And I'm working on it now, and I'm telling you what, I love that series. I love that story. It is the job. It is hard. I am on here doing a live video with you right now because I'm avoiding writing that beautiful shiny project that I used to just dream about playing with, because it's hard. It's not easy. It doesn't mean it isn't great, but it's incredibly difficult. And so that was a major turning point for me, is to recognize, okay, I have got to figure out what is going to be my motivation to sit down, put my butt in the chair, and pull open this awful freaking manuscript again when I don't want to and the passion isn't there. What is going to be my motivation? And here's the thing, there's a lot of different motivations. Money is a major motivation, but honestly, money is not hugely motivating to me in and of itself. I'm not a money girl. I love writing stories. Like, I don't really spend money. I don't wear designer clothing, you know. I spend some money on getting my blue hair, but that's about it. I'm not a money person. That being said, while money does not necessarily motivate me, retiring my husband from that soul-crushing corporate job, that was hugely motivating for me. I wanted nothing more than for him to be able to walk away from that job and never have to look back. That is what I wanted. On top of that, I wanted certain things these are things that matter to me. They don't necessarily have to matter to you. They don't have to be your motivation. I'm saying this is what motivated me. This is what I was thinking through, what is going to be my motivation to sit down and do this job. So for me, another motivation was, I really don't want to put my kids in daycare. I really want to have my kids at home. And that means we probably need outside help. We need nanny care. We need at least one parent home to be the parent, because I don't want them raised by a nanny, even if we have a nanny. All of a sudden, it's not the money itself, but it's what the money can do for you. All of a sudden, that matters a lot. And especially once the twins came along, holy cow, we needed help. I could not do this job while he was also doing his job. One of us had to quit work. And literally his last day of work was the day before the twins were born. And then the day they were born, he was getting offers for another job, and he didn't take it. You want to know why? Because I had learned by then how to get my butt in the chair and do the work when I needed to do the work. That's why he was able to say no thank you and walk away from that job and be that stay-at-home dad. And of course he rocks it because he's handsome and he's amazing. But anyway, so way back then, 2018, I needed to start figuring out what is my core motivation. And it can't be passion anymore. It can't be artistry anymore. And here's an honest question. Can you think? I can't think of any other job out there that depends on passion for the people doing the job to get it done. I can't think of one. Even all of the art forms out there, when it is your job and it's not your hobby and it's not something you're doing for fun here and there, passion alone doesn't suffice anymore. And of course it helped, again, I was able to start making this mental shift because I had already had a career as a traditional novelist. I had already felt what it was like to write for the artistry of writing. I had already felt the frustration of, I'm pouring my heart and soul into creating what I believe are works of brilliant artistic genius for nothing. I'm going to get in a little advance and almost no royalties. And it's it was really hard to keep up the inspiration, even though those books were written purely for passion. It was not enough. It never was. So what did I do at that point? Okay, I've got my notes here in front of me. So what did I do? I had to have a mindset change. I had to recognize that this is going to be my job. If this is what I want to be my job, I need to start treating it like a job. I need to start showing up for the job when I don't want to. And what I would encourage all of you to do, as you're building towards your writing careers, or perhaps you've started your writing careers, or wherever you might be, like, ask yourself some really hard questions. Like, ask yourself, do I want this to be my job? Because here's the thing, you can be a novelist and it doesn't have to be your job. You can be publishing and writing really great material and even publishing fairly regularly. It does not have to be a like support family of 6 income. It just doesn't have to be. But if you want it to be a job, if you want it to be a career, if you want to like have a steady income, whatever that is, 6-figure, 5-figure, whatever it is, if you want a dependable, steady income, then yeah, you have to have a very different mindset. You have to ask yourself, like, so if the passion is gone, is there still joy? I mean, I would honestly compare this career to, I mean, at least the way that I'm choosing to do it, I would compare it to a good marriage. You know, a really good marriage, like, obviously passion is very important. But when the passion is not there, what is left? Is there still a beautiful marriage there? And obviously, if it's a good marriage, then the answer is yes. Also, if it's a good marriage, the passion will come back around. Like that will always be part of it. And that's the case in a writing career as well. There are times when I feel very passionate about what I do again. There are days, weeks, sometimes entire books where it's like a gift. And it's so much fun. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I did back when I very first wanted to be a storyteller. And it's just super, super fun. Like The Moonfire Bride was that for me. Holy cow, I loved writing that book. It was so much fun to just sit down and write it every day, just pour it out of me in a matter of like weeks. Then I had to write The Sunfire King. Same story, same characters. Literally, those are like 2 parts of the same book. And The Moonfire Bride was a gift, and The Sunfire King was like, I thought it was going to kill me. I really thought it was going to kill me. It nearly did kill me. No passion. Hated every moment of writing that book. So extremely hard. But The Moonfire Bride gift was still beautiful. And here's the other thing. You have to learn how to create beautiful material that you love, that other people are going to love when you don't feel it. Again, is that not a marriage analogy? Like, you've got to learn how to love that person and show up for that person when you're not feeling the passion. Like, and they got to do it for you too. So that was the Sunfire King for me, man. It's like, oh, I do not want to be there. I do not want to show up, but I have to. And I have to show up well. And I have to, I have to show up to a degree that my readers can't tell that I hated this one. The love has to still come through. And the thing is, you do still love it. Like, even when you hate it, you love it. It's like when you have a difficult child, you know what I mean? It's like, this child may be difficult, and maybe I want to pull my hair out. Maybe I want to put them in a permanent time out and never speak of them again. But you do still love the child. You absolutely do. So, I mean, keep that in mind. When you're in the midst of a really bad book, it's probably not even really a bad book. It's probably you're in a bad space, or maybe it is a bad book. I don't know. But you can still find the love for it. You can still find the motivation to keep going. But you're going to have to find different motivations beyond artistry and passion. Because it's that day-to-day showing up that really, really matters. So a couple of little things, like, I mean, if you want some practical advice, I mean, I don't have a lot of practical advice because, again, like, so much of this is so subjective. But couple of ways to succeed. I mean, on a very, very basic level, like, work with your strengths, not against your strengths. That's pretty basic. So, like, for me, for instance, one of my strengths, and one that I did not want to acknowledge way back in January 2018 when my husband's urging me to finish the Venatrix Chronicles, but one of my strengths is my ability to buckle down on a project and finish it. Like, focusedly work until it's done. My husband is a completely different person. He is like multitasker extraordinaire. Like, he feels like if he's not doing 3 or 4 different things at the same time, that he's being lazy. And I watch him, like, I'm watching him in the kitchen. He's like cooking and running laundry and mopping and vacuuming and feeding kids, and he's doing all of it, and it looks like hell on earth to me. Like, just do one thing. But he rocks it. He does great in that. I do not. I'm a focused person. So knowing that, I did not let myself get distracted and go do Prince of the Doom City, even though I wanted to. I stayed focused on the thing that I did not want to do because I knew my strength was in buckle down, get it done, knock it out. And so I leaned into that strength, even when I didn't want to. That being said, you also should not you shouldn't limit yourself by your perceived strengths, because sometimes if you get yourself so focused on, no, this is how I do things and this is how I accomplish things, you might miss opportunities. So for instance, my first project after my twins were born back last summer was the Prince of the Doom City series. And I wrote 2 books in that series after the twins, and they published 2 books in the series after the twins were born. And at the time was committed to, I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to finish this thing. I'm going to stay focused. But then the reality is, it sells okay. It does fine. But I only make good income off of that one. I'll be honest. I make good income off of that one in the months when I have a release. The in-between months, everything kind of sags. And so in order to continue making good livable income, I was going to have to keep up a really intense writing pace of a book every other month, which with baby twins in the mix, it's just rationally speaking, that wasn't going to make sense. It just wasn't. So even though my inclination, my strength, my training basically was all for stay focused, get it done, knock the whole thing out, I did take a step back and go, okay, no, I need a money project. I need something that is going to be easier to sell and that is going to, just honestly take less time and energy than each of these very complicated Doom City books. Thus, my newest release, Bride of the Shadow King, was born. And ultimately, it's been a very wise choice, financially speaking, because that is a much easier book to sell. And it's giving me the cushion that I need in order to continue doing the Doom City project. That being said, it was a smart decision. I'm glad I made that decision. And yes, it was breaking from my usual strengths, but it also it has its drawbacks. One, because I broke from a project I was focused on, it took that much longer to write it. What should have taken me 2 months to write took me 4 months to write, because it literally doubled the amount of time. Just trying to get my brain into gear for that book was so hard. And then the reality is that switching gears from that and not finishing that story, I left book 1 and then moved back to Doom City because I'm on a deadline. I have a pre-order up. I have to meet this deadline. Getting my brain switched back into the Doom City world has been really hard. Doom City book 2, I had newborn twins at home, and I wrote that book 2 in 4.5 weeks from zero to polished draft. When I'm telling you, I can be focused, I can be seriously focused. That has not been the case. I'm in an easier place right now as far as, the twins are much easier. We're all much more stable. I'm healthier. But this book 3 is kicking my butt. It's really, really hard to do. And a lot of it, again, I'm working against my strengths. Having to go back and forth between stories, really get my head in gear. It's very challenging for me. It doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. So basically, this is my encouragement to you of don't get so hyper fixated on this is how I do things that you're not willing to branch out and do something a little that might not be as easy but might be right. This was the right decision for my family. It's a hard decision. But anyway, where was I going with that? Basically all that to say, don't limit yourself. I was talking to a couple different authors recently. One was saying to me that she just can't write unless it's fun. And and that might be true, but maybe you should consider that maybe you could write even if it's not fun if you, switch up a couple other circumstances. I don't know. I've talked to authors who say they can't write unless they're creating from their heart, and it's again, their passion project. And maybe that's true. I would argue that in both of those instances, those are authors who are incredibly talented people who are writing really fantastic work, but who will probably not honestly be professional novelists. And that's okay. And I do want to really encourage all of you who are looking at this as a potential career. You don't have to be a career novelist to be a novelist. You really don't. That being said, it's a really great career. Like if this does work with your strengths, and if it does work with your brain type, and if you can find ways to do it, find those outside motivations to kind of keep you going and keep you hitting those goals. It's a wonderful career, because here's the thing. Yes, my husband and I have switched roles in that I am now doing the job that I don't always love to do. I have to get up in the morning, even on the mornings when I don't love to. I have to come up to my office. I have to sit down, open my computer, shut my door, turn on my white noise machine, and do the work, just like he did back before. The difference is, even when I hate it, I love it. This is what I was meant to do. And I know this from the very core of my being. This is what I was born to do. I don't ever want to do anything else. Like this, even when I hate it the most, even when I'm going for, like, there's been a week and I'm like, I don't even want to think about the manuscript. If you asked me, do you want to do something else instead? Granted, there will be days when I'll be like, yes, thank you. I'd like to go dig ditches rather than do this. I mean, those days happen. But the truth is, no, there's nothing else that I would rather do. This is what I was born to do. Whereas his job, he was fantastically good at it, super respected, made great money, but it was one of those jobs where it's like every time he gets a promotion, it's like they crush his soul a little more. And, like it's not like anybody like dreams of being, IT tech support director or manager or whatever, like when they're a little boy. You know what I mean? It's like, it might suit your skill set. You might be really, really good at it. It's not necessarily going to satisfy something deep down in your soul. And the fact is, like, I can do, to a very professional degree and to a support family of 6 degree, I can do the job that I was born to do, which in turn frees him up to both be that stay-at-home dad that he rocks at, and to start actually having time and space to pursue training and everything for the things that he was born to do. So for us, like, this was like, I won't say it was a no-brainer decision. It was a very hard decision in a lot of ways, and it's a decision that we have to keep making and keep committing to. It's not an easy job. I love this job. It's not easy. Like, literally, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I literally did not sleep last night. I did not actually fall asleep until after 6:30 this morning because of anxiety over this job and over the deadline I'm on. And it wasn't just that. Like, I also have some physical things going on, just like still recovering from having given birth to my twins. Like, there's factors, but the big thing was, like, I couldn't sleep. Like, the anxiety was so great. It's a very challenging job, and you never get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm a 6-figure novelist now, and I've got this figured out, and I've got my snap drafting strategy, and I've got my ARC readers and my ad campaigns, and I've got this figured out, and I'm good now. It never gets that way. It is a job, and sometimes it is taxing, and it is exhausting, and it will wring you dry. So don't, there's no illusions here, basically, is what I'm saying. It's easy to look at somebody who has what looks like success to you and go, oh, they've made it. I want to do just what they're doing. You really might not want to do what I'm doing. I am only doing what I'm doing because, despite that anxiety, despite those sleepless nights, despite, all of those things, this is what I love. I really do love it. I have a good brain type for it as well. Like, I'm able to organize my life and organize my brain in order to, actually successfully do this. So anyway, in summary, basically, no job is ever going to be fun all the time. It's not fun to, rapid release series, Anna, if you're still here, honey, it's not fun. I feel your pain to the very core of my being. You absolutely can do this. 100%. I would encourage you, don't be distracted by the shiny projects that you really want to get to. They're going to lose their shine very, very quickly. Stay the course, keep doing it. Figure out what your external motivations are. Lean hard into those. If you have days where you just can't, that's fine. Take a day, take a week, nobody is trying to shove you off a cliff here, you know what I mean? But other than that, no, there's no easy answers. And like her question to me earlier this week was, is there a way to do this without going insane? No, sorry, you're gonna go insane, but it's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. But that being said, also, it's really okay to be a hobbyist writer. There's no shame in that. Just know who you are, know what you actually want, know what your motivations are, lean into that. Anyway, I think that's basically it. I'm going to take a moment and kind of scroll back through some of these questions and see if there's a few of them that I feel are, pertinent to the topic. Like I can see Rowan Ira, pretty name. Like you sound like you belong in a fantasy book. She is asking, I'm curious about your analysis as to why it is an easier book to sell. I'm guessing that you're meaning Bride of the Shadow King being an easier book than Doom City. I mean, that's a good question. Okay, so Bride of the Shadow King. It is an arranged marriage story, and that is what the story is. Very easy to sell. If you like an arranged marriage story with a fantasy setting, there you go. It's like Grace Draven's Radiance. It's like Miranda Honfler's No Man Can Tame. It's like Elise Cove is A Deal with the Elf King. Boom, nice and easy. Prince of the Doom City. So it's a little bit Holly Black, The Cruel Prince. It's a little bit Inception with, Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a little bit Jane Eyre. It's a little bit The Ring. It's a little bit, it's so many things all at the same time. It's 6 books of so many things all at the same time. You can call it a fae romance with the courtly intrigue, but the truth is, like, once you start throwing those Nazraiths in there, and then you throw in, like, her background with her, like, addict brother and her abusive father, and then you throw in, like, somebody is cursed and someone else over here is cursed, and, like, there's just so much going on in this series that it's really hard to pin it down and go, oh, if you like this, you'll like this. It's very much too much its own thing, which is great, but I love the story. Like, believe me, Prince of the Doom City is one of my favorite things that I've ever written, but it's very much written for me, and if readers out there happen to love it, great. There are elements of it, like every time I construct a book now, I construct with an audience in mind. So there are a ton of tropes and things in the series that I hope will be very appealing to a mass audience, but ultimately it has a life of its own. It is its own story, and it really doesn't fit with anything else out there. And so it's just very hard to sell. If you love it, you love it. If you don't, it's very easy to pick it up and go, what the heck is this, like, kind of Inception / The Ring / like Cruel Prince / Jane Austen / like, what is this thing? It's confusing. So that's why Bride of the Shadow King is so, and I love that story too, believe me. Like, I got so much fun out of writing that story, and it has its own levels of complexity, but as far as sheer sellability, it's very easy to say, oh, it's like this, all of which are hot sellers. Here's the blurb, here's the first chapter, boom, easy to sell. Beautiful romantic cover, super easy to sell. So that would probably be why. And I knew it going into it. Like, I planned it with that in mind. That was very much how do I write something that I love and will have a great time doing, that I know will sell because I have 4 small children. That was that project. And it was great. Like, I mean, don't let anybody tell you that writing to market is, like, somehow lesser writing. It's not. Like, I am so proud of that book, and I had so much, I seriously can't wait to get back to it, because again, it's so much easier, but it's artistic in its own way. So don't let anybody diss writing to market. It's a powerful tool when you know how to use it. So let me see really quick if there was any other questions. That one was a nice, easy one. So somebody else is asking, how many hours do you work a day on your writing? It's hard to say exactly, but I'll tell you what, I get up at 5:30 most mornings. So when I say, like, this is my job, I mean this is my job. I get up at 5:30 most mornings so that I can start writing as close to 8 as possible. And I don't always start with writing. Sometimes there's admin, sometimes there's other things. But with, 4 small children in the mix, 5:30 in the morning, I start writing at 8, or as close to 8 as I can. When I'm drafting, it's like an all-day thing. Like when I'm snap drafting, it is basically, I mostly just write on those days. I should be mostly writing on the polished days too, but these days I'm avoiding more than I'm writing. It's okay. We're finding our external motivations. We're gonna get this thing done. I swear, I really am. But like the snap drafting days, it's rigid. Like I set my timer, I work for 20 minutes, I take a 5-minute break, and then I come back and I set my timer for 20 minutes, I take a 5-minute break. I take an hour for lunch, and then my darling handsome comes up, every 2 or 3 hours, and he brings me a cup of tea, and we have like a little tea break. But other than that, 8 to 5, 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off. When I say I do this like a job, I mean I do this like a job. I take this very seriously. Not everybody has to do this in order to be a professional, but this is what I do. I'm also I'm a very routine-oriented person. I thrive in routine. And then her follow-up was it more earlier in your career with the Venetrix and now fewer hours per week? Oh no. Oh no. I've gotten way more productive and way more hardcore the deeper I've gone into my career. The funny thing is, I joke about this all the time. I have gotten more productive the more children I add. You'd think it would be the opposite, and I know for most women it is, but I got so much more focused and productive the minute I had my daughter, and then I added my son, doubled it, added my twins. It's kind of give and take. Sometimes I feel like I'm rocking it and I've doubled it even more. Sometimes it's like, okay, no, I'm seriously dying. They are twins and they are tiny and they take a lot. And I want to give them a lot too, because babies. But no, it's not less now. It's more now. I mean, my career is growing, my focus is growing. But here's the other thing too. It's like working out. The more you do it, the stronger you get. The more you also challenge yourself. If you're going to keep progressing in your workouts, you have to keep challenging yourself, or else you're just going to flatline and you're never going to make progress. So it's like that. You get stronger and therefore you push yourself more, and then you get stronger and you push yourself more. The difference between my writing now as an indie author, mother of 4, is so different from when I was a traditional author with no kids. No comparison. And I'm not saying, I worked my tail off back then, but I have just learned so much better how to work, where to channel my energies, and I'm so much more efficient. And again, I'm not driven solely by passion anymore. I have so many other motivations that go behind my, and here's the thing, I may not be driven by passion anymore, but I truly believe I write way better work than I did back then. Having exterior motivations it's motivating. It's very motivating. Anyway, great question, Victoria. I'm going to quickly scroll and see if there's a couple more. Oh, I love seeing all the comments from people saying that they also have awesome husbands like my handsome. That makes me happy. That's what I like to see. We need more good romances in the world. Rowan Ira has again asked, was it difficult making the transition from traditional publishing, where you had an editorial team behind you, versus indie publishing, where you are responsible for the development and copy editing? Even if you outsource? Or did you have enough experience that you felt more confident about the whole thing? That's a really good question. I'm afraid that however I answer this, I'm going to come across as extremely arrogant, and I don't intend this way. But the truth is, I have worked as a line editor. Story development is my jam. This is what I do. Now, that doesn't mean that all of my books are always perfectly developed and I always catch every plot hole and whatever. I don't mean that at all. But I have, even as a traditional author, I didn't lean on developmental editors. Copy editors, 100%. If any of you have ever had one of my books that's on the verge of going out but still needs its copy edit, 100%. I need my copy editors and my typo hunters, and I need you guys desperately. But as far as developmental editing is concerned, that's where I shine. This is what I do. This is why I am able to do the kind of work that I do. So, Yeah, honestly, it wasn't a major transition for me. I already did most of my developmental edits, even when I was with a traditional publisher. And it's not that they didn't work with me, and like there was give and take. But I mean, honestly, like my main developmental editor, she even said like one of the books like she got from me, she's just like, I just don't like it's really polished, it's really clean, I just don't have anything really to add here. Granted, the poor woman, like she mostly worked in historical romance, and then they were opening a fantasy line with me, and I'm like, here's all my dragons and witches and wizards and warlocks and whatever and magic and curses, and she's like, I don't understand the genre. She did great under those circumstances. And also, like, you know, I don't mean to sound arrogant here, because like I look back at my old work with the traditional house and I go, holy crap, like I wish that I could redo these now. I've learned so much about developing a story. Like they could use help. They absolutely could. But that's the thing. I have learned a lot. I have gained a ton of experience. I'm very comfortable with developing my own stories, and I have a handful of people that I trust with like beta reads, who will give me feedback now and then. But for the most part, yeah, it really wasn't for me, that wasn't a big transition, just simply because of where my strengths as a storyteller lay. Not everybody has that. And that's also, again, that doesn't mean that you can't do this job, and it doesn't mean you're not a fantastic novelist. We all have different strengths. That's okay. This just happens to be one of my strengths is developmental editing. So there's that. Good question though. I'm not entirely certain. Okay. Let me see. I mean, there's some great questions in here. One person wants to know if I do still traditionally publish. I do not. Honestly, it's a good question. And I definitely know authors who do both. I don't, in large part because like I left that name behind. So to take any time to continue building that name when most of my focus is building the Sylvia Mercedes name and brand, it would just take time and away from this brand that I'm really passionate about currently building, and where honestly where I get my income. My traditional publishing life, like I really couldn't make income there. Like the advances were not enough, and the audience was not growing, and it just wasn't worth it. I mean, I think it's great to do a hybrid career. For me, it's just not something that I could do. And honestly, I don't have really an interest in doing it. I don't really care to pursue traditional again. I think that some people feel like they aren't going to be a real author if they don't have that contract. And I totally get that feeling, because you know what, when I was a traditional author, I used to look down on indie authors. I really did. I've learned a lot since then. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, that prestige of having a contract, it just doesn't actually mean that much. I feel the same way about awards. Like back in my traditional days, I won some major awards. I mean, I'm talking like fancy banquets, red carpet, photographers, floor-length gown, crystal trophies, like events, like handsome in a tuxedo, which, I mean, that's a nice thing. They were fun events. They were great to go to. They meant nothing as far as like actually selling more books, building a career, having fan base, any of that. They were fun. It meant nothing. So like, I'm just not that. There's a lot of those things that people look to as like, these are things that I want to, and you know what, there's nothing wrong with having goals. Like if that's what you feel you need to really feel you've made it as an author, go for it. It's great to have goals. Again, external motivations. But for me, it's like, those are just not motivations anymore. Having had that and seen how little they actually like helped me progress toward my actual goals. Yeah, no, I'm just not that interested. Okay, hold on one second. Can I ask, per book, what percentage of its market price do you take home now compared to when you were traditional publishing? That's a very good question. So when I was traditional publishing, I got a 12% royalty per sale. As an indie author, it's more like 70% per sale. It's huge. Now this is ebook. Print book is all like different things, and audiobook it's different. It, you know, it depends on what but the bread and butter for me is ebooks. So the difference between 12% and 70% is like no brainer. Yes, all the work comes back to me to find my audience and sell my product to that audience. I no longer have a traditional house doing that for me. The truth is, in my experience, the traditional houses don't know how to do that. any better than the indie authors do, and they really depend on their authors to do as much of the social media promotion and everything. Like, I spent countless hours researching marketing for my traditional publishing house who could not sell my book. I mean, like, I did that. So when the time came for me to make a break and move into indie publishing, I was like, I'm already doing this much work. I might as well actually make the money to do it. So no, when I say I have no interest in traditional publishing, I mean, I have no interest in traditional publishing. I think there are reasons to still pursue traditional, and I have all the respect for those of you who do. But just because of my own experiences, I have no interest in that anymore. I'm going to take a few more questions. Let me scroll back down and see. Like somebody said she'd like to see rewrites of my early books. That's so sweet. Yeah, I know, I would too, but like, it's not happening anytime soon because it would be really exhausting. Okay, so Jill wants to know, what is your daily process like? Word count goals, etc. So when I am snap drafting, and that is my term for like a really raw first draft where I'm basically getting everything down on the page and like the whole book is there and it's a mess, but now I've got something I can work with. When I am snap drafting, I write 10,000 words a day. I don't play around. And it's hard. Like, I mean, I'm really tired by the end. And this is, like I said, I get up at 5:30, I start at 8, I go till 5, and then I get right into like bath time, meal time, snuggle time, bottle time. I was nursing. I'm not nursing anymore, but nursing twins time. It was a lot. But no, 10,000 words a day. That's what I do. When I'm polishing, it's different because I slow way down. Like, I'm taking all of that raw stuff and I'm making it beautiful, and I'm making it, I'm making the story that's already there sing the way I want it to. So then it's generally like a chapter a day, 2 chapters a day, depending on where I'm at in the book. I mean, maybe 3 chapters a day. If it's one of those gift books, it's like, oh, whatever, I just keep writing, and it's like 5 chapters a day, no problem, no sweat, super easy. Those don't happen often. It does happen. Doesn't happen often. But no, so that's what I do. There's also, of course, keep in mind, there's admin stuff. There's researching cover designers, working with cover designers. There's coming up with ad copy, distribution, visibility, networking. Like, there's website maintenance. There's tons and tons of stuff that goes on as a professional indie author besides the writing itself. But, and I cannot emphasize this enough, the writing is the most important part. None of the rest of it matters if you're not getting the words down, if you're not getting the stories down. So when I'm snap drafting, that's my goal. 10,000 words a day. Let's see, what is the typical word count for an indie book? I mean, for me it varies. I mean, and it varies for most of us, but like, my average book these days is 80,000. The Doom City books are all around 90,000. Probably my shortest published one was Dance of Souls, book 4 of the Venatrix Chronicles. That was just under 60,000 actually. Most of those were more in the like 65 to 75,000 range. Bride of the Shadow King is my longest indie book, and I anticipate books 2 and 3 will probably be just as long or longer. They're both significantly over 100. Book 1 is significantly over 100,000. But I generally, I like to do shorter, quicker, rather than, my traditional books were like 120 plus. They were all much bigger books. But these days I'm mostly comfortable around the 80,000-90,000 range. So yeah, great question. Sorry, a couple more questions here. There's a lot of really great ones. What was my traditionally published name? I don't know if I want to tell you. You can write me privately, Emily, I'll tell you. I try not to spread it around because, I mean, it's not as much of a big deal now. I will tell you guys, this is why I separated. When you're first starting out with a new name, I wanted Sylvia Mercedes as a brand to be associated with very specific names in the indie market. I wanted to be associated with names like Elise Kova, Emma Hamm, Alicia Klafiki, Jordan Rivet. Like, there were a number of established romantic fantasy authors that I wanted my name showing up with as Sylvia Mercedes. And I wanted, when my Amazon product page, I wanted that line of, oh, customers who bought this also bought. I wanted my also bots to all be those names so that my audience would know, oh, she's like those. I love those, so maybe I'd like her. So if I let people know my old pen name, it would be way too easy for those readers to go and buy Sylvia's books. And then my also bots are suddenly made up almost entirely of my old pen name, which doesn't do me any good. Or also authors, maybe like traditional authors associated with that pen name, which also doesn't do me any good. So it was a very practical business decision of like, I want to break into this market. I want to appeal to those readers. I want to be associated with those authors. So that was what went behind like the secrecy for me. So I made a public announcement about a year after I made a public announcement on my old page's, fan page, or what my old name's fan page. So like a lot of those people know now. So it's not like it's a deep, dark secret, but like generally I don't spread it around. Okay. Oh no, I already got that question. Sorry guys, I know it's not very interesting to watch me scrolling to find questions, but there's some really great questions in here, and I kind of, Oh, so when you snap draft, do you outline first? Do you go by beats when you snap draft? Yes, I outline. Big time outliner here. Absolutely love an outline. And my outlines can go anywhere from like really detailed, like excruciatingly detailed, to like somewhat bare bones. It just depends on the book. It depends on like how vividly I'm feeling the book or seeing the book in my head. If I'm really seeing it clearly in my head, I honestly don't need that detailed of an outline. If I'm not as confident, I'll start adding and fleshing out more details just so that I really know what I want. And then the snap draft is basically another outline, but it's an outline in which you put down absolutely everything. You just don't write it well. I mean, that's really like, if you want to like break the snap draft technique down to its essence, you write the book, you just write it badly. And that's what it is. Like, you just take all the pressure off yourself to write a good book, and you just put the words on. I mean, like, seriously, like my dialogue sections are usually like, he's going to say something like this, and he's going to say it with some attitude, and it's going to be clever. And then she's going to answer something like this. And, ooh, here's a line. She'll say this line, and I'll write a specific line. He's going to answer like this. Oh, here's exactly what she's going to say. And it just goes back and forth like that. So, like, I don't get caught. I'm not overthinking it. I get the energy. I get the tone. Sometimes I have the specific lines. A lot of times I do, because once you really get into the flow of the energy and the tone, like you get more clever as you go, and you get into the flow of it. But like, you would never publish your snap draft. Like, you would never show anyone your snap draft. It's like, this is for your eyes only, but it's fun. Everything is there, and it's so much fun to write it because like no one's going to see it, and you get to just tell story. So I love snap drafting, and I'm usually really shocked when I come back through and start doing my polish draft how much of it is actually really good and like only needs like a little bit of polish to make it actually like readable. And when I say really good, I don't mean like good enough for other people to see. It's never good enough for other people to see, but like just the energy and everything, it's like, it's usually all right there. So I mean, that's breaking it down into a nutshell. I do still plan to write my book on the snap draft technique. I promise it's coming. I've even started snap drafting the snap draft technique book. I really have. But again, twins and deadlines and like stuff, it's like, I just, it's definitely pretty far on the back burner right now. I need to finish Doom City. I probably need to finish Shadow King, and then we'll look at that book again. It is coming though, but that's the essentials. Somebody just asked I think Emily just asked if I want to get into bookstores. It's not really a big concern for me. Like, technically I am in bookstores. Like, I can be in bookstores. Like, my books are available to be purchased for bookstores. But again, it's not like a big thing for me because I was in bookstores before and it didn't really help. Like, again, like when my goal is, it's not prestige anymore, and it's not shiny crystal trophies anymore, and it's not like that moment of walking into Barnes & Noble and seeing your book up on the shelf anymore. Like, those are just not my goals anymore. My goals are, I've got 4 small children to rear, and having my books in bookstores just doesn't really, like, it's just not where, it's not where the bread and butter is for me. Like, I'm so deeply into selling my ebooks because that's where the money is. I love to produce beautiful print and hardcover copies for my readers who love to collect them. And I definitely try to make them available for distribution to bookstores if readers want to go get them through that avenue. But the vast majority of my target audience is honestly the ebook audience. Like, they really don't care that much if there's a print or hardcover. They're reading it on their Kindles. So, yeah, anyway. So yeah, it's not a huge motivation for me. That being said, if it's a motivation for you, go for it. Like, whatever is going to motivate you, lean into it. It's just not one of mine. So Rachel wants to know, can your books be widely read if you are a regular novelist instead of a career novelist? Yes, they can. It's harder just simply because, like, you're competing with the career novelists. And the career novelists they're quick. They're getting stuff out there so rapidly. They're building a fan base that can depend on them. Like, think about your own favorite novelists. When you discover a new favorite, what do? Like, usually you go and you snap up everything they have that available. And if you find a new novelist and they've got like 17 books, you're going to be like happy for a while reading their 17 books. Whereas if you find a new novelist and they've only got like 1 or 2 books out, and yeah, you might love both of them and you might be eager to wait for their next one, it's going to just not be very present in your mind. Like, their name is not going to be super present unless they're like your all-time favorite and you live and die on when the next one comes out. You know, you're not going to be that aware. So yes, you can be widely read without being a prolific career novelist. You absolutely can. It's just way harder. Honestly, I feel like if you don't want to be like a career novelist, if you don't want to be doing that quick production, that's a great time to start pursuing traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is a great place to be publishing and getting beautiful books out and getting them distributed without all the pressure that comes with an actual career. You just have to remember that you're not likely to make a lot of money. Like, you might be one of those authors who makes a fantastic advance and like you're totally happy. But the truth is, like, it's not like it doesn't happen, but those huge advances don't actually happen as often as we want to think they do. They just don't. And that doesn't make it wrong. Like, I mean, you could be very happily take a nice small advance. It, you know, pays for your time and effort. They take the effort to, you know, the time and effort and work involved in putting a cover and selling it. And honestly, I think that's a great way to go. You know, especially if, like, yeah, if you're not interested in doing it as a career, but you are passionate about doing it and you would like for your books to get out there, honestly, pursue traditional. Great question. I'm sorry, like, I think I lost where I was. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and see if there's any last couple of questions, and then I probably should go. How much do you typically budget for a cover? Oh, that's a good question. See, I'm actually kind of, I'm a little bit cheap when it comes to my covers. I won't lie. I'm not cheap. Let me rephrase that. I'm very specific about my covers. I have author friends who put a lot more money into their covers than I do because, again, they want really, really beautiful covers. And I mean, they usually do. I mean, their covers are so heart-stoppingly beautiful. That being said, heart-stoppingly beautiful is not a major motivation for me anymore. It's just not. So I am happy to spend between I've spent as low as like 160, and I've spent as much as, I want to say, 750, if even that, on a single cover. I'm not even sure if I've actually spent that high, but that's actually relatively low. Like, I know those can sound like really scary numbers, but like, that's actually really good for a nice professional style cover design. So, I mean, I would say, like, you know, definitely have a good budget for your cover design. I would say set aside at least a good $500 so that you can pick what designer you want to work with. But don't feel like you have to set out like $2,000 or something for your cover design. You really don't. You can get a really great cover design that works for your market for a lot less. let me see. There's so many great questions. Are there any bookstores anymore? That's a good question. Are there any bookstores anymore? I haven't been to a bookstore in a long time, but again, I have twins, so I don't go anywhere. So how long do you write each day? I have kind of covered that. Your daily word goal, I've actually answered that one. Sorry, there's a lot of things here. Do you find that a newsletter is essential when it comes to marketing? Yes, it is essential. You want your newsletter. My newsletter was really useful, especially like just with this last Bride of the Shadow King launch. Like I really saw the power of the newsletter with that one. Because the thing is, it's a great place to like very quickly access your true fans, and it's a great place to just gather them all in one place. If your fans are just spread out across Instagram, Facebook, and even then, that's a great place to gather them. But if your fans are just like out there and you don't know their names and you don't know how to contact them, like there's not much you can do. Like you have to trust that they love you enough to go looking for your next book, which they might. But the vast majority of us, it doesn't matter how much we love an author. Like we have lives, we're very busy. The next book of our favorite author is not generally high on our list of like, that's what I'm looking for right now. That being said, when we're told that that author's book is coming out, yeah, we're likely to go just immediately buy it. It's just we're not actively thinking about that. We need to be reminded. So yes, a newsletter is extremely important. I cannot emphasize that enough. I totally value my newsletter, and the success of Bride of the Shadow King has really, really proven to me the power of a newsletter. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll through. Sorry, I saw a question there. Do you have any advice for avoiding creative burnout? I've got so much advice for like avoiding / managing burnout because it's real, like it happens. And when I say advice, I mean, really what I have is I have experiences, but that's probably a topic for another evening, just because it's so vast. But I will take that question and I will use that as a topic for it. I'm going to do the visibility one first because I thought that was such a great question. Like, what are your top tips for like making your work more visible? I'm going to do that one first, but I can talk about burnout for the next one because that's such a great question. So as an indie author, do you network with potential artists for your covers? I mean, I don't know if I network with artists so much. I keep like a running list of cover designers that I like their work, that I will query when I have a series coming around. But no, I wouldn't say I network so much. Because when I think of network, I think about like, making a professional contact and like nurturing a degree of relationship. Artists that I have worked with, yes, like I have good professional working relationships with artists that I have already like worked with, but even then I wouldn't say I network with them necessarily. It's more just like you have a rapport. You have a certain, like I've worked with more books for so many of my cover designs. So I have a very comfortable rapport with Adam over at More Books. But I don't know if you really call that networking. I might be misunderstanding your question though, so please just bear with me. How many rounds of outside editing do your books go through, and how much budget do you put aside for that? I kind of hate to answer this question again because what I do is not necessarily what everybody should do, but the truth is I do very little outside editing. Again, kind of answered that before. I have a background in developmental editing, so that's kind of my strong suit. So I don't really do outside editing. I have a copy editor and I have a wonderful group of volunteer typo crunchers who like scour my manuscripts and send back all the reams of mistakes that I have left. Even though I think I've read through these so many times, I've got a beautiful polished manuscript, and they're like, no, surprise, here's 3,000 typos you missed. So I have those people. But they, bless them, do it for free. So I don't budget a lot for editing. It's just not high on my priority list simply because of my own unique skill sets. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I'm just not the right person to ask because I happen to have a slightly different set of skill sets. Okay, I just saw a question that looked good and now I've lost it. I'm trying to scroll all the way to the bottom and see if there's like one or two last questions here, and then I really need to go. The question was more, how do you go about finding your artists? That's an excellent question. Honestly, go look at the authors who are selling really big in the genre that you're trying to, write in. Like, That's it. Go look at those authors. Go look at their covers. A lot of times, an author will list their cover designer inside their front matter of their books. I always do, because I'm always thinking of you aspiring authors out there. I'm like, I know they're going to want to know who I hired. Also, I love this artist and I want them to get more clients. So I always list my artists in the front matter. And, by the front matter, I mean, you don't even have to buy my book. If you just like the cover and you want to go open the front matter and see who I hired, you don't have to buy the book to see that. The information is right there. I even often hyperlink so that you can just click and go immediately to their website, because you know what? They are awesome people. They are hardworking individuals, and they deserve the clients. But that's the best way to do it, honestly, is look at what's selling, look at what's doing well. I hired Deranged Doctor Designs for the Venatrix Chronicles because, what was her name? She wrote The Black Mage Academy. She's not really written anything since then, but she was big right when I was doing Benetrix. Her first book was called First Year. She was big, and Deranged Doctor Design did her covers, and then so I discovered them through that, and then they did a whole bunch of other designs like around the same time. And I can't even honestly say that they were my favorite designs. They weren't. I wanted to go with something much more artistic. I wanted a symbol. I wanted it to look more like a traditional publishing house. But then I saw these covers, and then I saw those sales ranks. And then I saw the reviews, and I went, you know what? I'm not a traditional author anymore. I want to do what she's doing. I want those kinds of numbers. I don't want the traditional numbers. So I hired her artist, and I'm really thankful I did. They did amazing work for me. And, is it what I necessarily would have picked aesthetically for my own personal preference? Honestly, no. Did it work as an indie author? 100% it did. I highly recommend you go that route. Do I pay for interior formatting? No, I actually do it myself. I learned how to do that myself even before I learned, even before I switched to the Sylvia Mercedes brand. I started learning interior formatting, and it is a learning curve, and it can be exhausting. And if you can hire out, just do hire out, honestly, because nobody needs to mess with this. But at this point, I'm so I'm control freak enough that I'm I know exactly how I want it to look. So I'm just going to do it myself. Anyway, I even for Bride of the Shadow King, I even queried an artist about doing it for me because I was I just can't mess with this. And then I chickened out after I'd queried her and said, nope, never mind. Sorry, I'm going to do it myself. And I did. And I am still suffering for this decision because the hardcover of Bride of the Shadow King, you'll notice, is still not out because we're having formatting issues and I don't have the time to solve them. And I should have hired it out, but I didn't. So anyway, don't be me. Hire somebody. I don't, but you should. Have I ever looked into using Patreon? I honestly haven't, but here's the thing. It's not because it's not a great tool. I'm sure it is. It's just time. I've got all these children. I just don't have the time to even honestly look at it and see if it would be worth my time. And I don't have time to have the gifts for the patrons. I just don't have time. Again, let me emphasize this. Focus is extremely important when you get into indie publishing as a career, as a profession. Learning where your focus should go, what is the most important thing to focus on, and it's very hard because you're going to have so many different pulls on your focus. You're going to have so many different people telling you that you need to do different things. For instance, you'll notice I wasn't even on Instagram for years. I only just got on Instagram a year ago, and I'm still pretty slouchy as far as being a useful member of Instagram society. I just don't do it. But the thing is, because I looked at it and I went, how much is this selling? How much can you see for sure that Instagram activity is selling product? And even the authors I know who are brilliant on Instagram will acknowledge that it's pretty hard to qualify whether or not all this effort is selling books. And what I see is a ton of effort being put into having a Instagram presence that doesn't necessarily, translate to sales. It's just so much effort. So I really try to keep the focus on producing the next book, telling the next story, as much as possible. And then, yes, like I just said, I also waste my time on formatting when I probably should hire it out. So look, I'm not perfect at this either. I'm really not. But for the most part, put the focus back on the writing. Write the next book. I really should probably go pretty soon. My husband is getting us takeout Chinese tonight. He can cook really beautifully, but it's Friday night and it's the end of a very long week, so we're doing takeout Chinese. I can't wait. I need some egg rolls. So let me just, I'll answer a couple more of these and then I'm going to go. Gosh, there's so many of these. I'm so sorry. I hate to bore you with my scrolling through to find your questions, but there's a lot of great comments here. I'm going to go through all of these too afterwards. And I'm going to pull out the questions that I think could make for an entire talk or that I can just really quickly answer. So, I'm going to pick one more because otherwise I could just keep going. Sorry, it just keeps kind of jumping around. I'm actually having trouble finding just one more. There's a lot of lovely comments here. You guys have been so great. Thank you so much for your interest. And now I have somehow accidentally skipped all the way back to the beginning of the comments because technology hates me. So I'm not going to answer one more. I'm sorry. I just don't want to keep you here while I'm trying to struggle through figuring this out. Also, it's getting late, so I should probably go pretty soon and eat my egg rolls. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much. This was super fun. Obviously, I love talking about this. I'm extremely passionate about this. I am very excited to do more chats like this for you since, there's so many of you out there that are working hard toward your own career dreams, and I want to see you succeed. Oh, also, by the way, I'm gonna go link to Anastasis Blythe's website again. She was the one who started this whole conversation today. She is a great example of somebody setting up for a successful launch. So if you are in the process of building up toward your launch, go look at what she's doing, because she's doing all the right things. And and honestly, network with her on Instagram or Facebook. She's super sweet, super friendly, and again, watch what she's doing because she's doing all the right things. I'm very excited to see how her big launch goes later on this year. I will definitely be supporting her. So I will come back. I don't know if it'll be next week or the week after, but soon, and we'll talk about my tips for visibility, and then I'll come out with another burnout post sometime, or talk sometime after that. Hopefully at a time when I've actually solved my burnout issues with Prince of the Doom City 3, so that I won't be a hypocrite when I'm talking about surviving burnout. So pray for me, guys. If you pray, send me the good vibes, send me the virtual cookies. I need them all. I love this prince. I love Clara Darling. They deserve a good story, but right now I kind of want to kill them both. So pray for them too. They need it. Anyway, have a great night. Thank you all for being here, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.